important to have it copy on your paper. Well, give me a sec. So prepare this. Okay, we are live. Very good. So it's time for us to start with the practice. Okay, very good. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, fantastic. So as I was mentioning, let us start with our practice tonight, and we are going to be, as I say, practicing for the first task of this speaking section. Okay, so let me share my screen and let us jump directly to our practice. Here I have these statements already prepared for you, and well, we're going to be starting. Very good. So we're going to start right from here. Let me paste this question here to you, dear students, for you to see it. Okay, there you have it. All right, fantastic. It says the following, okay? It says, do you think that it is a good idea to skip breakfast? Please support your points with the specific examples and also details, okay? There you are. So please, all of you can start preparing your response for this question now. Good, there we are. Okay, so it's time for us to practice one by one. And in this case, please, our dear Lucia is going to be helping me out in this first question. Okay, so please, dear Lucia, you can start responding to the question now.
I don't think that it's a breakfast for two different reasons, because I think that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And second, because it brings you energy in mornings to eat something. When I was 15 years old, I avoid breakfast for a type of diet, and I always feel weak and I doesn't feel great. So I decided to never do that again. And now I feel much better.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, dear Lucia. There you are. Very good, thank you. So let us move on with our dear Alexander. Please, Alexander, you're going to continue with this round. You can start responding now.
I disagree with that statement. Also, I think that breakfast is necessary for have energy in the morning and to develop all the activities in all day. There are some medical studies that prove the importance of a correct breakfast that include a lot of proteins, vitamins, that's necessary to develop activities like work, like do sports, or also study. And also it's important for feel good, improve the health. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, dear Alexander. Fantastic. Let me continue with our dear Angel. Please, Angel, you're going to be the next one. You can start responding to the question now.
I disagree with respect to skip the breakfast. I will give my reasons. For example, you can get a lot of illness. A friend got gastritis and he had the costume or skip the breakfast. Also, another argument for disagreement or respect to the sentence is the lack of energy. If you skip the breakfast during the day, you will feel without lacking of energy. Last year ago, I skipped my breakfast and my performance in the work and the study declined. For the reason I disagree with the sentence.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Angel. It was a very good response. Let us finalize this round with our dear Paula. Please, Paula, you can start responding to this question now.
With regard to the topic, I believe it is not a good idea to skip breakfast I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, when you don't eat breakfast, you have stomachache. To illustrate, one day I went to school without eating breakfast, and my stomach hurt really bad, and I had to go to the doctor. Secondly, you don't have energy for the day. Exemplifying, a friend at my university fainted when she didn't have breakfast at home.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Paula. And well, Crisbel just joined us, so you're going to be accompanying us in the next round, okay? Very good. So let us go with some feedback to all of you. So let me start with Lucia. So Lucia, you in this case mentioned a very interesting argument. You said that you disagree with this idea because you consider that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And secondly, because you consider it is what fills you with energy for the entire morning and journey you will have, of course, on every single day. And you said a very interesting example that when you were 15 years old, you practiced a very interesting diet of not eating breakfast for a while. And of course, that caused you a lot of problem, illness, and lack of energy. And now that you are eating your breakfast very normally, you feel way better. Fantastic, Lucia. That's exactly what I mean. Very good. Very personal illustration, very specific, good arguments, very short and precise. Very good. Then we move on with Alexander. In this case, Alexander, for example, mentioned one argument. He said, it is necessary for doing activities like work, sports, studies, etc., etc. And here you offer, of course, some illustrations in a very general sense. You said that when people, for example, don't eat breakfast, they cannot practice well their work, they cannot do very well on the exercises, etc. But I would recommend you here, dear Alexander, always trying to make them more specific, right? And to relate them to a single person, something like, for example, right, you make it up and you say, my uncle, who, for example, always has the very, very disadvantageous habit of not taking not taking breakfast, normally doesn't have any type of energy for his work, and he is actually being threatened to lose it, right? Something like that. Very good, anyways, dear Alexander. It was a very good response. Then we have, in this case, Angel. Angel, you said in this case that, yeah, you disagree because it can give you a lot of illnesses. And you here talked about, for example, somebody in your family who had gastritis. And of course, this was due to the fact that he was not consuming breakfast. Very good, your Angel, fantastic illustration there. And you also here talked about how this provokes lack of energy. And you talked about how 1 year ago, you were not actually taking your breakfast and your work began to decline. Your work began to decline. And well, it was a fantastic exposition there of your own life experiences and how this, of course, helped you out to comprehend the wrongness of this practice. Finally, we have Paula, who talked about illness as well as a result of this particular practice. You, Paula, said that, for example, when you were not taking your breakfast some time ago, you began to have a very, very profound ache in your stomach. And that, of course, resulted you in going to the doctor. And finally, you talked about how it also provokes lack of energy. And you talked about how your friend fainted in your school when you were actually doing other activities. Very good arguments, very concise, and also very much personal. Fantastic. Let us move on then to our next topic. We have a new question, and it's this one. Let's see what you think about this question. That is, by the way, a little bit more technical, but you shouldn't get scared about this type of question, dear students. Why? Because this question, although it seems to be more technical, as I say, it presents you with the same particular requirements. You should respond to this question in a very, very personal way, avoiding any type of expressions like, I don't know, just speaking about facts or academic topics or scientific discussions. Remember that this is one of the very few occasions in which you are able to say your opinion, in which you are able to remain personal in the TOEFL exam. So please take advantage of that, help yourself, and please enjoy this opportunity for you to remain personal, to say what you think, and to use your own experience as an argument, and of course, as a premise for you to discuss these topics, okay? So please, you can follow me in this question. It says, a smoke stacks on all large companies should be modified so that no harmful pollutants are emitted into the atmosphere. Do you think that this is a good idea? Give reasons and details to support your arguments. Very good. So please, you have 15 seconds to prepare your response now. Awesome. So it's time for us to listen in this case to our dear Alexander. You're going to start, dear Alexander, with this question. So please, you can turn on your microphone and you can respond to the question now.
I agree with that statement. I think that the industrial smoke could affect the health, not only for the person, also for the environment. So I remember that I have a professor that when we was in high school, tells a story that he have a dog and he lives near a factory. So his dog was affected with the smoke of that factory and have to sacrifice that dog. So that's the thing that is necessary to move or close that industrial smoke from the cities.
Perfect. Thank you very much, dear Alexander. Let us continue with our dear Lucia. Please, dear Lucia, you're going to delight us with your response starting now.
I agree that smoke stacks on all large companies should be modified because big companies are the most that harmful the atmosphere for their big machines. And the second one, if the companies modify smoke stacks, the pollution will be reduced and it will be to benefit for the population. For instance, in my city, there are a lot of companies that contaminate a lot the environment, and that's the.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, dear Lucia. Fantastic. Let us move on with Angel. Please, dear Angel, you can start responding to the question now.
Respect to reducing emission of factories, I agree with the sentence for the following reasons. First, a reduction of emission could means new opportunities for for more environmental friendly products, and with this action we could reduce our coal footprint. Also, an advantage of for reducing emissions is this could improve quality of life of house near to factories. Last year in my city, quality of life improved when a lot of factories reduce their emissions.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Angel. Fantastic. Let us move on to Paula. Please, dear Paula, you can delight us with your response now.
With regard to the topic, I believe companies should be modified so that no harmful pollutants are emitted into the atmosphere. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, we need to be able to live in a better planet. To illustrate, we can see how pollution has affected climate change and how it has affected the life of every person in the world. Secondly, we need less contamination in our planet, exemplifying people are dying of lung cancer and they have other diseases because of pollution.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Paula. Okay, let me continue with Chris Bell. Please, dear Chris Bell, you're going to follow up. You can start responding to the question now.
With regarding to the topic, smoke stacks on a large companies should be modified. I totally agree because it is an eco-friendly way to have a better life than other planets. For example, and company modify the way to work to this company. Secondly, it doesn't help the biodiversity in the world. So, for example, one man lost part of his body because of the smokestacks.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear Grisbel. Fantastic. Well, let me start then with some feedback to all of you. So let me please start in this case with Alexander. So, well, Alexander, in this case, you talked about two different arguments. You said that yes, in this case, it would be better for this smoke emitting companies to shut down or basically to reduce that pollution because of the environment. Because you said, well, that you had a professor, very interesting illustration you offer here, by the way, dear Alexander. You had a professor who talked to you about dogs, well, dogs he had who died because of factories polluting and, of course, somehow affecting the environment nearby in a very, very much conspicuous and destructive manner. Fantastic illustration, by the way. And then you talked about as well how this is somehow harming and destructing people's lives. Very good. I think that it is a fantastic response, short and concise arguments, and a very good illustration that is personal. Now you, well, let us continue with our dear Lucia. Lucia, you mentioned in this case two arguments as well. You said that factories have very, very big machines that are super dangerous. And that's the reason why in this case, dear Lucia, you believe those machines should be reduced as well with their, of course, with their limitations and boundaries so that they do not harm people's life. And secondly, you talked about less pollution as well as being present in the war if we shut down these factories, smoke provoking. And you talked about your own city and how in your own city this problem is certainly an ongoing issue that needs to be resolved by reducing the quantity of pollution. Very good, dear Lucia. You mentioned a very specific illustration here. Fantastic. Angel, you talked about this response by mentioning that it is good to shut down these places or to reduce their pollution because it helps to be environmentally friendly. Very good. And secondly, you talked about how the quality of life of people diminish if these fabrics or if these places are not canceled or are not controlled. And you talked about your own city in which you said that factories have reduced their pollution and smoking emissions, and therefore the quality of life in your city has substantially augmented. Very good, dear Angel. Then we had Paula, who said that, yeah, it's certainly better if we reduce the amount of pollution because it helps us to have a better planet. And secondly, because people nowadays are dying because of cancer produced by these emissions. And you talked about, in this case, as I say, a very interesting topic there, a very compelling and powerful argument. In this case, maybe I would recommend you, dear Paula, that when you are always giving your illustration, always making them more personal, right? Always relate them to a single individual instead of making them more general, like saying, for example, people nowadays are dying because of cancer. You can say, for example, right? I have a friend who died or who had a cousin who died because of cancer, being said that they lived and worked in a very much commercial zone with factories polluting the air and water, right? Something like that would have been great. And finally, we have Chris Bell. Chris Bell said in this case, for example, that yeah, these places should be more eco-friendly because that helps somehow to reduce the threats and menaces that nowadays some companies are, and well, excuse me, the environment is receiving and the environment is tolerating. And you talked about your own company where I guess you work and how your company has reduced these processes that damage the environment and how this, of course, is something you find to be very much efficient and very, very much positive. And secondly, you talked about biodiversity. Well, in this case, you say that people nowadays are losing some of their organs and specific extensions, physical extensions, because of this very terminal diseases caused by pollution. Fantastic. Very good, dear students. I think that it was a fantastic round. Let us continue. We have more questions. Let me go with this one. Here we are. So let me see what you think about this topic. Jose, let me paste it here and let me read it for you. It says, all families should only be allowed to have one automobile. Do you think that it is a good idea for a family to merely have one car? Support your points with specific examples and also details. Okay, wonderful. So please, dear students, it's time for you to prepare your response now. Okay, very good. So please, dear Angel, you're going to be the first one to respond in this round, and you can start doing so now.
In respect to the topic of having one automobile for per family, I agree with the sentence because if we only allow to have one automobile per family, we will reduce the traffic. Uh, Efficiency of all the people will increase because will spend less time in the traffic. Another reason is if we reduce the number of cars in the streets, we will reduce the CO2 emissions. And this is key for a sustainable future. That's all the reason why I agree with the sentence.
Perfect. Thank you very much, dear Angel. Fantastic. Let me pursue with our dear Paula. Please, you're going to move on with the next response. You can start now.
With regard to the topic, I believe all families should be allowed to have one automobile. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, using public transportation reduces the traffic. To illustrate, when I was in France, I saw that downtown, they didn't allow any cars and people could walk freely and there was no traffic at all. And secondly, the oil is getting expensive. And so gasoline for the cars is getting expensive as well. Exemplifying in the same country, I was able to use public transportation and save a lot of money.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Paula. There you are. And let's go with Crisbel. Please, dear Crisbel, you can start responding to the question now.
Teacher, again, please.
Oh yeah, of course.
didn't-
Why not?
Okay.
Okay, you can please start now.
Okay, with regarding to the topic, all families should only be allowed to have one automobile. I agree because of the following reason. First, it is a good idea to have only one because it reduces the pollution. Example, my cousin works in a public administration and they work how people can find another ways to go to another places in order not to use their own cars. And secondly, it helps to have less more opportunities to use bicycles. For example, my cousin uses her bicycle and during the day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Crisbel. Fantastic. Let us continue with Alexander. Please, dear Alexander, you're the next one. Please start responding to the question now.
I agree with the statement. I think that could be a solution to solve an environmental problem. That's the pollution, and also to solve the traffic problem. That's some that affects us all days. A better idea could be improved public transport. As an example, here in Quito, a few years ago was a legislation called Pico y Placa that forbidden to transit 1 day a week in the cars. But many people buy other car, and that's also reduce the air quality in Quito, and also now we have more traffic, something like that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Alexander. Great. Let me finalize this round with you, Lucia. please, you can start responding to the question now.
I disagree with the statement because I think family have the opportunity to buy 2 cars. I would highly recommend it for different reasons. First, because a big family have 1 car. Family members have different activities during the day, and they will need to use the car, for instance, to go to the work or to go to the supermarket. And second is because in my family at the beginning we had only 1 car, and me and my sister fought to use the car all day, and it was a problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Dear Lucia, great. Well, let me offer you some feedback now. So Angel, what about you? So in this case, you mentioned, yes, I think that they should be compelled to merely have 1 car because you said this could reduce the traffic. And secondly, this could reduce the CO2 emission. And of course, that would create a sustainable future, right? Very good. I think that those were fantastic arguments. And well, the illustrations you used to accompany this response were also accurate. Very good, dear Angel. Secondly, Lucia here, for example, talked about reducing the traffic as well. Well, in this case, she talked about, well, in this case, well, Lucia was the only one actually, sorry, who didn't actually go for obligating people to merely have 1 car, but she says, no, actually families should have more than 1 car if they want, because big families have different things to do. And she said maybe one of them wants to go to the supermarket and the other one wants to go to the university or something like that. And that of course creates some trouble and some sort of inefficiency whenever you merely have 1 car because nobody's able to use it. Now, secondly, she said, I think that it is a good idea because this could help to prevent different fights and brawls. And she gave a very interesting illustration. You gave a very interesting illustration, Lucia, when you said, I actually fought with my sister when we merely had 1 car in order to determine who would use it. Very interesting illustration, very personal, even comical, and of course it helps to your case because it makes the response very, very much appealing. Very good, dear Lucia. Then we have Paula, who in this case, for example, mentioned that, yeah, she was actually agreeing with this idea of compelling families to merely have 1 car because you said in this case, Lucia, it could help you to reduce the traffic. And in this case, you talked about how your experience was when you were living in France and you had the opportunity to experience a traffic-free space in which you merely had the chance to walk, and it was great for you because you didn't have to worry about cars. Secondly, you said, dear Paula, that oil is getting exponentially expensive. And that, of course, demonstrates the necessity to now assist yourself with public transportation, as when you gave your example, you did when you were in France and you also used the public transportation instead of using private or single automobiles. Fantastic, dear Paula. It was a fantastic response, very short and concise arguments, and very, very interesting and also compelling illustrations. Then we had Crisbel. You, Crisbel, in this case, for example, talked about also how it would be good because it could help you to reduce pollution. And you talked about your cousin who works for a public administration office who is trying to understand how could people be encouraged and forced to use public transportation. And of course, this is very much related to the topic, and it's a very good personal illustration. Then you talked about how could this also help population to realize that other transportation means are actually good as bicycles, for example. And you talked about how your cousin uses the bicycle for her daily routine. Fantastic as well. Very good response as well. Then we had Alexander, who talked about how could this help to prevent pollution as well, and how in the place and city where he's living in right now, Quito, there wasn't a specific legislation so many years ago in order to get rid of all cars, but nonetheless, people actually turn out to be the other way around, and they started to buy other cars, and that actually helped to increase Quito's traffic. But interesting, very good illustration and very good arguments here, Alexander. let us always aim nonetheless for getting 2 arguments and 2 illustrations in our response, okay? But fantastic anyways. Then we had Lucia, and Lucia, for example, in this case said, oh no, I have actually said about Lucia. Well, great, fantastic. I think it was a great round, and it's time for us to move to another question. Let's see, well, let's see what you think about this one. It's very interesting. I'm gonna paste it to the chat box. It says this: children and teenagers should be limited to only 2 hours of a screen time daily from devices such as smartphones, iPads, gaming systems like Xbox. Do you think that this is a good idea? Give results and details to support your argument. There you are. Okay, so all of you can start thinking about your responses now. Very good. Okay, dear Paula, you're going to help me this time to initiate this new round. You can start responding to the question now.
With regard to the topic, I believe it is a good idea to limit children and teenagers and the time they spend on the screen daily. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, they can focus on other activities like playing. To illustrate this, when I was young, I used to play in the garden for hours instead of being all the afternoon in front of the TV. Secondly, they can develop new skills. Exemplifying, my brother used to be in classes like of painting, and this way he developed the art skill.
Very good. Thank you very much, dear Paula. Okay, dear Crisbel, you're going to continue with this round. So please, you can start responding to the question now.
With regarding to the topic, children and teenagers should be limited to only 2 hours from devices, I agree because it doesn't help to improve their to improve people to try new things. For example, my nephew loves play games on his table, but his mom doesn't allow him because it doesn't work on him like he wants. And secondly, it I don't know, teacher, the time.
It's okay. That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Crisbel. Let us continue with our dear Alexander. Please, dear Alexander, you can start your response now.
Okay, I agree with the statement. I think that kids need to learn about auto control and also learn that there are limits and times and space for all the activities that they want. And as an argument, I think that have a limit of time in video games could be a boost to make other activities like sports, music, art, and also for socialize in a first person with other guys. Also, I have a cousin that grew without a control for playing video games, so he plays whatever he wants, and also later he have problems to socialize with other guys in the school.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, dear Alexander. Fantastic. Let me continue with our dear Lucia. Please, dear Lucia, we're going to start this topic now.
I agree with the statement because I think that if parents don't limit the time that children spend in the computers, they could stay all day long playing video games. And the other reason is that children need to do other activities during the day, like studying and playing with other children. My cousin, when he was a child, he was always playing in the computer, and now he's an introvert person because he doesn't share time with real people since he was a child. So those are the reasons why I agree that children should be limited to devices.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Lucia. And let us finalize this round with our dear Angel. You can start, dear Angel, to respond this question now.
Respect to a limitation of a time exposition in front of a screen, I disagree with that sentence because, especially in front of a computer, because in internet or in front of a computer, you could find a lot of opportunities for learn by yourself a lot of things. For example, a cousin learned a lot of things from internet, and now he is working on remote for an enterprise in USA. Another reason for not for no limitation on a screen is demonstrate that the screen is not causing not that damage on your eyes. My cousin had a lens on his eyes, and he never used a screen.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear Angel. Good. Okay, so let me start with you then, this feedback. So, well, in this case, you said, yeah, I don't actually believe that it is a good idea to limit the time of exposition to these devices because of two reasons. You said, first, you can find different opportunities to learn, and you gave the fantastic example of your cousin who spent a long time in the computer, and now he's working remotely for an American company as a result of that practice and consistent time on the screen. Very good, dear Angel. And then you offered a second argument. You said screens do not actually damage your eyes. And you said, for example, my cousin also, who has some sort of eyes trouble or eyes disease, has never actually been very much exposed to the computer. And that demonstrates that computers do not damage your eyes. Very good, dear Angel. I think that both arguments and illustrations are very compelling. Very good. Then we have Lucia. Lucia said, well, they should be limited because if they are not so, they are going to be playing all the time. And of course, that is disadvantageous. You said, Lucia. And then you said that they should actually be doing other activities like playing with other children. And you gave the example that your cousin was actually playing video games all the day, and now he's a very introverted person as a result of that lack of interaction with other people. Fantastic, Lucia. I think it's a very good example, the one that you have offered here, and very good and concise arguments as well. Then Alexander, for example, said in this case, yes, this could be or this should be limited because it helps you to put or to boost, in this case, your your skills and your capacities. Well, in this case, for example, you talked about how your cousin was a player, right, of different video games, and well, anyways, he learned later on how to interact with other people, and that resulted in him not having that much trouble to manage this both realms or both experiences, computer and also social skills. Very good, dear Alexander. Fantastic response. Then we have Chris Bell. Chris Bell, for example, here mentioned one argument. She said, you said in this case here, Chris Bell, that it is fine because actually here, well, the children should be actually testing new things every single time. And you talked about how, for example, your cousin merely plays PlayStation, and that is actually preventing and refraining him from experiencing different other activities in his life. Very interesting and very good. Now, of course, here the only thing Chris Bell will be trying to include two different arguments and two illustrations, right? But apart from that, it was a fantastic response. Then we have heard actually about Paula's response, and you, Paula, said that yeah, you actually believe this was a good idea because well, if they do not so, or if they are not limited in this case, they're going to focus on playing, and that's all. And of course, you talked about how when you were young, you were actually always constantly playing in the garden instead of being all day in front of a television. And then you said it can actually help you to learn new skills if you're not on the computer all the time, because, for example, your brother got some painting classes and that helped him to develop new skills apart from computing. Fantastic, dear Paulo. It was a very, very good response. All right, there you are. As you can see, we are improving a lot, right? Well, let's go with another question. Let's see what you think about this one. Here you have it. it says the following. Sorry, not this, here. All young men and women should be required to complete 2 years of military service for their countries. In your opinion, is this a good idea? Why or why not? Provide supporting details in your response. Okay, that's it, dear students. Now it's time for you to prepare your responses, and you can please start doing so now. Okay, very good. So now it's time for us to respond. Please, hear Chris Bell, you're going to be the first one in this question, and you can please start delivering your response for this question now.
I disagree with this statement. First, because it doesn't work if others force you to do this service. For example, here in Bolivia, the ladies can choose if they want to do this service. Second, it doesn't work if people don't want to have this. I don't.
That's okay. Thank you very much, dear Chris Bell.
Okay.
Very good. Let us continue with our dear Alexander. You can please start responding, dear Alexander, now.
I disagree with that statement. I think that a military formation is not necessary for have plenty lives. I know some military people. I understand that they are forced to obey authorities and don't think by themselves. Also, I think that maybe it's like have an old tradition that not adopted for the current style of life. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Alexander. Fantastic. Let me continue with our dear Lucia. Please, dear Lucia, you're going to be the next one. You can please start responding to the question now.
I disagree with the statement because I don't think that will necessary to complete 2 years of military, especially for women. But the reasons are because I think that young men and young women need to spend time doing what they love. For instance, I have a friend who she played tennis since she was a child, and now she's a good player and she went to study abroad thanks to play tennis. So I think it will be better that young people do what they love instead of 2 years of military.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lucia, for your response. It's now time for us to listen Angel. So, dear Angel, you can start responding to the question now.
Respect to the mandatory service military of 2 years for all the countries, I disagree with them because the first argument is people or inhabitants of the country could lose opportunities for in their life. For example, in South Korea, people where the mandatory service is mandatory, people has a lot of opportunities for improve their lives. Another example, another argument against this sentence is really actually wars not will not depend on the number of people. To have a lot of people struggling on a war is will not guarantee of you will win the war.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Angel. And we finally have Paula. So please, dear Paula, you can start responding to the question now.
With regard to the topic, I believe people shouldn't be required to complete years of military service for their countries. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, people nowadays have other dreams like studying. To illustrate, I had an Iranian friend whose dream was to study abroad, and he had to do military service. Secondly, many people don't have a passion for this military service, exemplifying he never found happiness in this activity.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Paula. So let me start place this feedback with you. So you, Paula, mentioned in this case, for example, that nowadays, well, you disagree with this because nowadays you say people have all their dreams. Very interesting. And you said that you had a foreign friend who was forced to participate in military service. And of course, he didn't find this to be fulfilling. And finally, you said that nowadays people do not find passion in this particular military activity. And you also came back to your friend's example in order to demonstrate that, yeah, he didn't have happiness in this time. Very good. For example, what you did, Paula, it's something that others could imitate as well, because when you didn't have a second illustration, you came back to your first illustration, but you used it in another context. And that is a very interesting technique because you are anyways coming back to your first illustration, but you are using it in other context. And therefore that is another and second illustration as well. So all of you can do that, dear students. If you don't find a second illustration, you can come back to your first one and use it in a different context. Okay, so let me continue with Angel. Angel, for example, in this case, you said, yeah, you gave a very good argument because you said people shouldn't be forced because nowadays they are going to lose the opportunities well, they could receive if they were not having the service. And you talked about South Korea, and what you said is true, that they are actually forced, all men are forced to have the service, yes or yes, doesn't matter who you are. And you said that they are going to be losing many opportunities because of this, right? Very good argument, very good illustration. Although if you notice, it's not that personal, but anyways, because it's so compelling in this case, I think it works. Okay, very good. And you didn't mention any other arguments, at least, well, within the time, right? But very good, dear Angel. Then we have Lucia, and Lucia, you said, yeah, people nowadays should do merely what they are actually loving to do, not what they are forced to do. That was your argument for going against this. And you said, yeah, I mean, I have a friend who loves playing tennis, and he is very good at it. And now he wants to study abroad because of this ability he has at playing tennis. Fantastic. But, well, fantastic. My only thing would be always trying to get two arguments instead of one, right? We're always aiming at that particular part and having two different arguments, right? Anyways, very good, dear Lucia. Then we have Alexander. Alexander, in this case, for example, talked about how he believed that, well, military service is not good because they are indoctrinating people and soldiers do not actually think by themselves anymore. Very good there, Alexander. You said that you don't want to suffer from that. And secondly, that you consider the military to be a mere old tradition that doesn't have any foundation nowadays. Fantastic. Maybe the only thing would have been a more personal illustration, maybe, I guess, something like saying, for example, my cousin went to the army and he came back home brainwashed, right? Something like that. You would have been great. Anyways, very good response here, Alexander. And finally, we have Chris Bell. And Chris Bell said, yeah, it could be great because, well, they are actually, well, forcing to do, people who are forced to do different works are not actually going to perform very well at it. And you said that in Bolivia, for example, ladies are not actually obligated or compelled to participate in this military service. And you said that this is an example of how people are not being obligated to the work they do not actually want to do, right? And well, you didn't have time to mention the second argument, but anyways, it was a very good one. And you offer here a very specific illustration that is personal because you're talking about your own country, and that always helps, right, to the force and to the strength of your argument. Very good, dear Bell. Fantastic. Great. So let's go with one last practice here, students. Let's go with this one. Let me see what you think. Okay. I want to go with this one. Here you have it. It says, do you think that it is a good idea to live with your boyfriend, girlfriend before marriage? Support your points with specific examples and details. All right, so please, all of you dear students, you can start preparing your responses now. That's it. So please here, Alexander, you're going to help me with this first response, and you can start doing so now.
I agree with that statement. I think that have existence with a couple before the marriage could be a way to try improve all the things that when in a relationship we try to don't demonstrate to other people, and also it's for and also as an example, I saw a cousin that lives with the couple before the marriage, and before a years after a year she decided that's not the perfect couple for her. So it was a good idea to do that before marriage.
Thank you very much, dear Alexander. Now, dear Lucia, you can start responding to the question now.
I agree that it's a good idea to live with your boyfriend before marriage because first you know your boyfriend much better if you live together, and second that it's not easy to live together with anyone, so it will be a good practice to live before marriage. My sister get married with her boyfriend, and after the marriage they start live together, and it was awful because they don't they they don't have too much things in common, and for that reason I think it's a good idea.
Very good. Thank you very much, dear Lucia. Dear Angel, you can start, please, responding to the question now.
Respect to the sentence of living before marriage, I agree with the sentence because for the following reason. Because living with your couple allows you to share an environment. If we share an environment, we could know better other people. For example, how he or she sleep, how he or she good. And for example, my cousin lived before marriage with his couple, and now, after a lot of years, he, he they are couple. They are joining now, and people who that don't practice this uh, have more probability to be separate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Angel. Dear Paula, you can please start responding to the question now.
With regard to the topic, I believe it is a good idea to live with your partner before marriage. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, you know the attitude or behavior of that person very well. To illustrate this, my boyfriend's sister lives with her boyfriend and they discover they fit perfectly and they will eventually get married. And secondly, it's different to live with someone daily. And exemplifying, I had a friend who lived with her boyfriend and she realized he had alcohol problems that she didn't know. So they broke up before getting married.
Very good. Thank you very much. And let us finalize with Chris Bell. You can please, hear Chris Bell, start responding now.
With regarding to the topic, I think that it's a good idea to live with a boyfriend or girlfriend before marriage because of the the reasons. First, they have to live together as a couple because they have to know each other. For example, my brother lived with his girlfriend before they get married. Second, people won't waste money for the party of the wedding if they don't get married. For example, my cousin lived 8 years and they didn't get married.
Thank you very much, Chris Bell. Fantastic. Well, there you are. Thank you very much, students. I think that you see how much you have improved since we started practicing this task and since we started this theoretical analysis of this section as well at the beginning of this week. It's been a pleasure then to have practices with you. And next week, we're going to be discussing a new topic that is the speaking section number 2 and 3. But nowadays, let me please congratulate you to congratulate all of you because I think that you have performed very well on these practices, and I think that you can see how exponentially your performance have improved in the last days. Okay, so thank you very much, and please, before you go, let me tell your assistance. And well, of course, as I say, we're going to be seeing each other next week. So please help me as well with your kind responses for the traditional poll that we always fill. You know that I always appreciate your kind responses, okay? So please look at that. And if you have any question, any commentary, please let me know. All right. Let me look for you. All right. So it's here present our dear Lucia Adriasola.
Present.
Thank you very much, Lucia. What about our dear Crisbel Dania? Yeah, I know that Crisbel is here. What about Juan Pablo Duran? Okay. What about Paula Andrea?
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Paula. What about Andrea Mercedes? What about Alexander David?
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Alexander. What about Intriago Angel?
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Angel. Fantastic. There we are. So thank you very much, dear students, for your presence. It's been a pleasure for me to be with you tonight. And well, I'm going to be seeing you next time. Have a fantastic week and have a wonderful night as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See
Teacher,
you.
you didn't
Yes.
call me, or you call me?
I call you, but well, I got your presence. Don't worry. I
Okay.
call you.
Thank you, teacher. Bye,